Python tutorial at beginning. Okay, so today we're going to be doing Python from the start. If you don't have Python in your system, all you need to do is to install it from the internet. It's very easy to install. Just type download Python on Google and it will take you to, you will see the Python website. Go to the website, download Python in your system, and then double click on it. It's going to install on your system. If you already have Python in your system, then let's continue. If you don't have, I'm not going to be going to the step of installation. We can quickly do that. You can quickly do the installation and then come to join us in this tutorial. Okay, alright, so here is Python for beginners. We're going to be following the manual for step-by-step understanding of everything. So the first thing to do is to print hello world with Python. In Python, to print, you use the function print or the method print. So once you use it, it's going to print out whatever you want to print. So what we do now, press Ctrl F5, press enter. You can see hello world has been printed here for us. Okay, so the keyword print is used for printing something in Python. I want to show you something very quickly. Other programming language, if you are talking about scope, let's say if you are using if statement now, if function, let's say if there's a variable called x, they say if x is greater than 1. Now they use curly bracket to represent scope in other programming language. So these are the syntax of other programming language like JavaScript, PHP, Java. A lot of programming language has this same syntax. So here we have if x is greater than 8, then all the lines of code when x is greater than 8, what you want to execute, you put them here, and what you don't want to execute, you put them outside. Sorry for that. What you don't want to execute, you put them outside the curly bracket. So if x is greater than 8, all these things here will be executed, all this line of code. Else, that means if x is not greater than 8, this one will not be executed. So this one will be executed anyway because it is outside the scope. You understand? Whether x is greater than 8 or not, these codes here will be executed because it is what outside the scope. But in Python, scope are not defined like that. In Python, you have something like this. If x is greater than 8, then there is a full column. This full column represents the curly bracket in other programming language. Then every line of code will start under the scope. Under the scope here. So it is called indentation, and it must be uniform indentation. It must be uniform indentation. So the space between the beginning of the line to the first character here is known as indentation. So this is how indentation is defined in Python. Okay, so if you have something like if okay, if 5 is greater than 8, which we know that yes, 5 is greater than 8, it's going to print out for us. It's going to print 5. Sorry for that. 5 is greater than 8. Sorry for that. So it's going to print this out for us, right? But outside the scope now, we have gone outside the scope. It's going to print out this anyway, whether 5 is greater than 8 or not, that this condition is accepted or not. So it's going to print this anyway because we are now outside the scope. Just imagine that there's a curly bracket here. So this code is inside that curly bracket. Then this one now is outside the curly bracket. So this is how it is written in Python. Right? So if you run this or press your F5 or Ctrl F5, it's going to print out hello. Why? Because the scope was not the statement, sorry, the condition was not true. Okay, because the condition was not true. So which condition was not true? 5 is not greater than 8. Okay, so if you put 15 here, you still put 15 there, let's say 15 is greater than 8, it's going to print out this condition, and it also is going to go outside the scope and print out this condition here, sorry, that statement. So let's run it again and see. You can see 15 is greater than 8 and hello, it is printed. So this is the foundation of Python. These are the key things in Python that needs to be, sorry, okay, these are the key things in Python that needs to be considered. Very, very important stuff. So Python will give you error when there is no indentation. So if you remove the scope, Python is going to give you error. Let me give you an example. Okay, let me wipe this out. Now we have here we have 5 is greater than 2, but there is no scope. There is no scope. So this is going to give us error. You can see invalid and non-printable because it doesn't understand what you have written so far. How will you make a condition 5 is greater than 2? If 5 is greater than 2, then there is nothing written in that condition, because if anything is written in this condition, it must be there must be an indentation to show that the next line of code is starting under this particular line of code. Do you understand? Okay, so the space does not matter. It can be a single space, it can be double space, it can be triple space, but as far as all the codes under this if statement is having the same indentation, then there is no problem with that. Okay, so if you write it like this, it's the same thing as doing this. It's not saying if 5 is greater than 2, then to the following, and then leaving the curly bracket empty, and then coming here to print something else. You understand? So it is, the curly bracket is now empty. So this is how this is in another program, right? Because of the scope. So scope indentation in Python is one of the key things that is most important. If you understand indentation in Python, then you understand how to code Python very easily, and it's very easy to understand it. I don't know if you have any other question in indentation. You can just add it to the comment below. Here we have used the same number of space in the same block of code, otherwise Python will give you an error. So here we say if 5 is greater than 2, print 5 is greater than 2. So this code now is now under this, which does not make sense, because it's not a statement, it's not a condition, it's not a function, it's not a scope. So it's just a statement. So a statement, an under statement cannot be under another statement, because it's showing that this one is inside this statement and this statement is inside this statement. You understand? So it's going to give you an error. Alright. That brings us to commenting in Python. Comments can be used to explain Python code. Comment can be used to make the code more readable. Comment can be used to prevent execution when testing the code. Comments start with a hash and Python will ignore them. So this is a comment. It will be ignored by Python compiler. Python runs on a compiler, not on, Python does not run on a compiler. It runs on an interpreter. An interpreter reads the code line by line. When there is an error, it will now stop, while a compiler compiles the whole code before bringing out an output. You understand, right? So to add comment in Python, use the hash key. You can see that it's red because it's a comment. You can also comment a code. Let me say I want to do something, then I made a mistake. So I want to print hello. then I do not want to delete the code, I can decide to turn the code into a comment by adding the hash key at the beginning of the code. So you can see now that the code has been turned into a comment. Alright, you can also comment at the end of a code. Let's say you want to tell your users or the person reading your code what a particular line of code does. You can add a comment to it. This code will display hello. Sorry for my spelling. Okay, this code will display hello. Alright, so this comment does not affect this particular line here. Why? Because it's starting with the hash key. Okay, so that is that about that. Okay, the next thing we are going to be doing is multiple line comment. So if you have a multiple line of code and you don't need them anymore, let's say the lines of code are so much, you don't want to delete them because you want to reuse them, and you want to do something about it. You don't need it at the particular moment, and you cannot go and be putting hash if before, or it will waste your time to do that. So you now use multiple line commenting. But in Python does not have comment for multiple line. So what Python has is single line comment. Okay, to use multiple line comment in Python, you use multiple line string. You are going to come into that later on. Multiple line string by putting 3 quotation mark, and then by the end of where you want to end a comment, now put 3 quotation mark. You can see now that this code is not commented, but these 4 lines of code has been commented. So you want to add multiple line comment to Python, you start with 3 quotation mark and you end with 3 quotation mark. Okay, this is a comment. You start with 3 quotation mark and then ends with 3 quotation mark. That is how simple multiple line comment is in Python. Okay, I don't know if there's any question concerning that. Please, I want to beg you to please subscribe to my channel at this point. Subscribe to my channel. Encourage me by subscribing to my channel, so more videos like this you'll be seeing it. Alright, thank you. Alright, let's continue. So we are done with multiple line comment and single line comment. We are going into Python variables. What is Python variables? Variables are containers for storing data values. Variables are containers for storing data values. In school, when you want to calculate the area of a triangle, you need your breadth and you need your width. So you need these 2 things to calculate the area of a triangle. Okay, these are variables. To calculate the length of a rectangle, the area of a rectangle, you need length and you need breadth. So if the length is equal to 5, then you now say the breadth is equal to 8. Then you now say area is equal to length times breadth. Okay, so this is area of a rectangle, right? Length times breadth. So you will now know that length is 5 and breadth is 8. So when you add it up, when you say 5 times 8, it's going to give you the area of a rectangle. So these are examples of variable. How many variables do we have here? We have L as a variable, we have B as a variable, and we have this A that contains the result as a variable. So just as it is in programming and in mathematics, that is how it is in Python. Creating a variable is just simple as that. So now let's create a variable called name, and let's say name is equal to Ben. So this Ben here is the variable name is called the variable value. Sorry, is a variable value. So name is a variable, like a container that contains this value. And there are different value type. There are types of values, also known as data type. This particular one that is written in quotation mark is known as string. So string values are written in quotation mark. Then we have integers. We are coming to that. But before then, I want you to understand this. So this ben is a value that is assigned to a variable called name. I can choose to create a variable with anything. You can say x is equal to 87. 87 is a number. That is why it's not written in quotation mark. If I put 87 in quotation mark, it is no more a number, it has become a string. So this 87 now is just like a string, like a test character, you understand? It is no more a number. I can't use it to a mathematical calculation except you cast it, you turn it back to int. Okay, we are coming also to that. So we have x is equal to 87. So 87 is a number. Okay, let's say y is equal to 9.0. 9.0 is a float because it's a decimal number. Decimal numbers in Python are known as float variable. Okay, then we have, let's say y. Oh, we have y already. Let's say n is equal to 5j. So this is a complex. This is a complex number. This is a complex number in Python. Okay, so we have three numbers variable. We have 87, we have 9.0, and we have 5j. Okay, then we have string, which is bounded with quotation mark. Okay, every string is bounded with quotation mark. So all these things are known as value assigned to their different variables. So let's create something simple. Let's say s is equal to ben, and okay, s is equal to 67. Now let's print instead of printing ben, we now print the variable, because this variable is a container containing ben, right? So instead of printing instead of printing 67, let's print x, because x is carrying 67 as a value, right? So if you run this, you're going to see that it will print ben and then it will print 67. So instead of printing those values, it's now printed their variables. We printed their variables, and the variables printed the values. So that is how variable work in Python. Okay, it's very simple and straightforward. Alright, there are different data types in variables, as I earlier say. To know the data type of a variable, use a function type, the type function. Example, want to know the type of name. Which data type is this name carrying? Then let's print the function called type or method. If I'm talking about function, I'm referring to method. They are the same thing. So type, we have its own bracket. This bracket is known as the argument bracket. Okay, the bracket that is in front of every function is known as argument bracket. So anything that has a bracket in front of it is known as method in Python. Okay, so we have print type. Now what's the type of variable we want to print? Name. Want to know the type of variable name is, and want to also know the type of variable x is. We know that x is int and name is string, but want to be sure. So let's press Ctrl F5 to run what we have done. You can see now that string, that is name, is a string, and int, that is the number, is int. Alright, so we are going to be stopping here for now. Please, I want you to watch the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to support me. Thank you, and God bless you.